Hey kids, welcome to the Monday Movie Club. We really need to get a better name. Today we're continuing our new project where 5 of us have recommended the movies we will watch every week. I'm Frank Gaffney. I'm Frank Gaffney. Here with me is Amy Goldman and Joel Fenster, of course, and Mark Wotitz Gartner. And Annie King, it's her birthday today.
Happy birthday!
Happy
Birthday.
And our special guest who came back this week is Jeff Pliskin, who has big in the background there. We'll find out why. So we're rotating guests. So if you want to join us for a particular movie, let us know. Today we're discussing one of Annie's choices on her birthday even. And she selected 13 going on 30, which is a chick flick for sure. Total opposite of last week's rooster flick. Is there a comparable thing for a boy movie?
Dick flick?
A dick flick?
No.
All right. So as always, we begin with, I think you should coin that phrase.
I think so.
Yeah, it works.
Last week's dick flick was The Hateful Eight. As always, we begin with Annie. Why did you pick this one? Go on.
So it happened to be on her birthday, and today's my birthday, and I'm not 30, unfortunately. But
well, maybe
anyway,
if you had some of that fairy dust, you could be 30.
yes, I fell in love with that fairy dust. I wanted that fairy dust. But it came out at a great time. I was able to watch it with my girls. They loved it, like
So
reading
it
ahead.
was 2004. And
So
you weren't 30 then either.
no,
Hard
but
to
my
say.
kids were of the age to watch this fun kind of thing. So every time it came on, we had to watch it, and it just grew on us. And it was kind of like, it's a coming of age kind of thing, how you want something in the future that you think is the end all to be all, and you can't wait for that to happen. And then you find out that it's really not what you wanted it to be. And we just liked it. Yeah, we love Mark Ruffalo in it. He's just such a sweetheart in that. And also the 80s music was definitely a nostalgic point for me.
Okay, well, I had not seen it before, and I shied away from it exactly for those reasons. Was that I thought it was going to be like a Freaky Friday big, combo, and it is. But it's very sweet. It is very sweet, and a very charming performance by Jennifer Garner. Holy crap, she's so adorable in this movie. I mean, it's impossible not to fall in love with her. She's so adorable. And it has one of my other boyfriends, Mark Ruffalo. And it's so cute to see him young and not in a movie where he's like tortured by, his soul and all that. And definitely all of us can relate to Jenna's 13-year-old, misery, right? And she says, I don't want to be original, Maddie. I want to be cool. Aw, sweet.
Yeah.
And I really did like the two kids that played young Maddie and young Jenna. They were very cute too. They did a nice job. So, but of course, it's very derivative. And here's the formula. You got the mean girls in school, and here they're called the Six Chicks. And then you got her, doing the Tom Hanks big reaction when she realizes she's big, right in the same mirror practically. And then you do a makeover montage, you do a falling in love montage, you have a little Devil Wears Prada scheming coworker, you mix in a little Sex in the City, and voila, you got 13 going on 30. And but the Thriller dance was ridiculous, and I loved every minute of it. And Mark Ruffalo said he hated it so much he almost quit the movie after rehearsing the dance. That's how much he hated it. And what was with that kid who was eating in the bar alone when Jenna hit on him? Where was his parents? He was just out at night by himself?
There was a plate across from him, so
there
obviously
was?
someone else was there, but we just didn't see them. So
Okay.
they may have gone to
And-
the bathroom or gotten up for popcorn or decided that it just wasn't worth being in the movie for.
There you go. And then how was it that the girls went from not even hearing of Love is a Battlefield, and then they immediately knew the choreography and all the words? It's a fantasy, yes, I know. And I know it's a fantasy because Jenna and Maddie can afford those apartments in New York City. So we know it's fantasy. But there are a few cringeworthy moments. I mean, 17 years later, that guy doing the striptease dance,
Ugh.
I felt just as uncomfortable as she did. And it wasn't even funny. And Jim Gaffigan, what was,
Yeah,
Oh, that was
I-
Jim Gaffigan. I thought
Yeah.
so.
That was
yeah.
funny.
I love that. I love him.
what was that about? And then, and Jenna
He's a
hanging
cab
out.
driver, right? The
Yeah.
cab
Well,
driver.
hold on. That's to show that the cool kid became the loser.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I thought it
Jenna,
was great.
and Jenna hanging out with all those teenage girls. Who she thinks she is, Michael Jackson?
Well, Thriller. Hello.
And then the picture of her with Rudy Giuliani. I'm like, ooh.
Well, you know,
That
hindsight
didn't
is
age well.
2020.
And then,
Yeah.
it-
Hindsight is 2020.
and then, and it's great, of course, that Jenna gets with Maddie, which we knew that was going to happen. But what about poor Wendy? She's an anchor person. She deserves better. All right,
Yes.
and then of course, like most of these movies, it finds out it's all a dream, and then she realizes she needs to jump on Maddie's bones, and of course, Mark pointed out all of the Marvel people in this movie, but I don't think it's that crazy because almost everybody has been in a Marvel movie at this point.
Yes.
That's like
I
saying
see.
at this point that, you know, British actors are in Harry Potter and Doctor Who.
Yeah,
You know,
hello.
they're all in Harry Potter and Doctor
Everybody's
Who.
been in, yeah,
So-
sure.
I think we should start saying who isn't in a Marvel movie.
Yeah. But Frank, I'm sure you read, and others maybe read, who read the trivia knows that one of the 6 chicks was Brie Larson.
Yeah,
Yes.
another Marvel.
Yeah.
Marvelite. All right, so this is the thing, and obviously this was my first time seeing it, but I completely understand Annie saying, you know, it's on HBO. You walk in the room and you sit down and watch it, because I could definitely see this being that kind of comfort food. It's so warm and and friendly that you know, you just sit, and then before you know it, you've seen the rest of the movie. But not me. I will not be stopping when I see this movie again, although it was very sweet. So I'm going with 2.5 stars on this one. It wasn't torturous for me, but yeah, it was very derivative, and I couldn't really recommend it unless you're, you know, a 13-year-old girl. You'll love it. Mr. Pliskin kind of has a much better opinion, I think.
What are you kidding?
Better meaning
That's a joke,
stronger, I
right?
think.
No, I'll go along with everything you said. It was work for me staying with this film to the end, but I figured I basically, this hour was why I was suffered through. the
You were
film.
obligated. You were obligated.
Exactly. Once you're in,
Work.
you know. I found it utterly lacking in the charm that Big has. And I'll tell you why I see so many differences between them that makes Big such a better movie. In Big, yes, the same thing. They go to sleep, they wake up, and you know their body is aged. Now, in this film, she wakes up and she's projected into her life as a 30-year-old. And even though in her mind she's still 13, you see her starting to interact in business meetings and everything as though she were actually 30 years old. In other
Well,
words,
she has no choice.
yeah, I realize that, but you know, she's saving the day with her ideas and blah, 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 blah. Now, in Big, Tom Hanks, so he finds himself thrown into the business world as well. But what makes that so charming is that he never loses his boyishness. It's him as a boy playing in the business conference room. He's playing with a toy and saying, "Oh, this would be, whatever." He's relating
Playing with
to the
Elizabeth
adults.
Perkins.
Yeah, but
But
Jeff, I gotta argue that one bit, because he does toward the end, after he has sex with Elizabeth Perkins, he suddenly grows up and ignores his friend and this and that. So it is almost the same storyline. He grows up and then realizes, wait a minute, I got to go back to being a child again. And but to your point, it's exactly the same storyline here.
Yeah, I mean, I just didn't find all the cliches. I thought Big was just a very original way, and maybe it's the script I think was a lot better. I didn't have any big issue with the performances in 13 Going on 30. For what she had to work with, Jennifer Garner, she was good. I mean, it's just that constant, that constant wide-eyed, sort of staring and gaping at herself in the mirror and all that. I mean, you gotta expect some of that. But
No, I definitely think, Jeff, the script was the big difference, because when Big came out, there had already been 3 other movies that were the same basic concept. And Big obviously shone over all of those because of the scripts, and certainly
Tom Hanks. I mean, the performances were stellar. Yeah. But she seemed to me, to be wavering between actually interacting like a 30-year-old and still having the 13-year-old, mentality. And then, there's just a lot of other sort of things that were just irked me. She goes back to her parents' house, before the weddings. First, by the way, why was the wedding taking place at her parents' house? I didn't understand that.
It's next door.
They live next door.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. But in any event, she goes into her old house. Now, her parents have aged 17 years. She goes into her parents' house and nothing has changed in that house from the way it was when she was 13. That was just ridiculous. That
No,
you wouldn't even expect.
our living room looks exactly the way it did 17 years ago.
It's true though, it's true.
Yeah. But I mean, all the, the toys, and I mean, it's like literally like she had walked out of it the day before.
Well, the
Anyway,
toys and everything in the closet in the bedroom, I did think nothing they didn't get rid of any. That was
That's
weird.
that's
Well, but
what-
here's the thing. If we're gonna go with the fact that she just dreamed the whole thing, then yes, it's still her bedroom when she was 13.
Yes, but why did her parents all of a sudden have gray hair? I mean, they aged.
She would imagine they were 30.
Yeah,
They
okay,
aged.
well, all right. Well, I mean, you're trying to
It's-
apply logic to something that's totally
Yes.
illogical. But
It's a
to me,
science fiction movie.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
know.
It-
Anyway, I give it 1.5.
1.5. I do
Is that
remember.
officially the lowest we've ever seen on a movie here?
I think so.
I
Phantom
don't
Menace. Phantom Menace.
Oh, Phantom Menace.
Oh,
right.
yeah.
I've blocked that out at this point.
Yeah.
Smart move.
On those movies. All right, Amy Goldman, you're a girl.
Yeah, so I everything that you said, Frank, it was very charming. It was very sweet. She was so good. And I was actually surprised by the movie in that like I saw Freaky Friday when it came out at the Stanford Theater in Avon, in the Avon Theater in Stanford. And I don't think I had seen a switching movie except for Big until this one, really, because they were all the same to me. And what surprised me about this one, and I loved, was that time shifted. In Big and Freaky Friday, they age and it's the
In
exact
the
same time.
zone.
That surprised
Had you
me.
seen
And
this before? Had you
No.
seen this before? Oh, okay.
no. And that upped it a whole half a star for me. I thought that was really, really clever. I don't think any other age swapping movie moves you ahead those years, does
Right.
it? I don't know.
Right.
So I really liked that, and I thought she was adorable. I thought Mark Ruffalo was adorable. I did think it was loaded with cliches, and her secretary talking to this 30-year-old girl, like, "Yes, Miss Rink. Oh, I'm so sorry, Miss Rink." I'm like, what 30-year-old is gonna,
Well, but also because the Jenna in the future was a bitch.
Well, yeah, I realized that later on.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, so that's
Yeah.
why.
That's why she was afraid of her.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, it was so cliched. You knew everything that was going to happen, but there were moments where I was like, oh, like I certainly never thought she was the one sabotaging the magazine, and I thought I'm probably the only idiot who didn't realize that. But so I liked that. So I am giving it 2 3/4 stars because I didn't hate it at all. I would never watch it again, and I would never have watched it, but I thought it was fun. It was sweet.
And weren't you
And I could
smiling?
totally, one other thing, I could totally understand. I mean, Annie and I were 38 when this came out, and still older than you should be, but much better than being 55, although Annie's 56 now. So I could see it definitely being a movie for anybody from 10 to 40.
I had a comment and it went out of my head. I think something's wrong with me. today.
Serious.
You're old, Frank. That's what it is.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
All right. Let's go to the boob holder himself, Mr. Gartner.
Yeah, it's funny. You guys have all touched on my comments already, but it's definitely not my type of movie. It's my first time seeing it as well. And just like, well, maybe not Jeff, but like Frank and Amy said, I certainly didn't hate it, but it was very cliched. A lot of it was at the ending. I kept saying she needs to find the house with the pixie dust, and sure enough. But you know, Amy, I want to talk to your point because that actually brought it down a little bit for me. I appreciate a different take on it than him just, you know, than just being big. But for me, and Annie, feel free to weigh in. I didn't like that she was propelled 17 years in the future with no it was the worst wish you can wish for because you missed out on 17 years of your life. She has no memory of anything she's done. And yes, she got what she wanted. She's successful when she's 30, but she's also a mega bitch and cheating on whatever. And it just didn't seem like a good wish for me. And I hated that.
Sometimes the things you most wish for are not to be touched.
Yes.
Yeah, I like that. It was that great lesson for her.
Okay.
Right. And then she changed her life. She's like, okay, I don't want to be a bitch. So now I'm going to be nice again. But Amy, weren't you smiling during the whole Thriller thing? That's what I was going to say.
Oh my God, yes.
Yes.
I was
I
totally
love that.
doing it with them.
And
Totally.
her
Yeah.
faces were just so adorable. She
Yeah.
really was. All right. Sorry.
And I agree, no, it's okay. You're saying exactly what's in my head. I love the Thriller scene. I thought both Jennifer Garner and Mark Ruffalo are both that adorable. They were cast very well. What else did I want to say? Nothing really. I just I think you guys have said it all. 2.5 for me.
Did you watch it? Did you watch it with Danielle?
Yes. Yeah. And you know, this is how bad Danielle is with movies, which is why she doesn't want to join these at all, because she's seen the movie at least 2 times before. And I kept saying to her, all right, she's got to find the house so that the dust she can go back. And she's like, no, she doesn't. She stays. And I was like, oh, that's a shitty ending.
Yeah.
And she was like, oh, I completely forgot the end of the movie. But hold on, actually, that brings me up to something else. Frank, you said, maybe I missed this, but you're saying she dreamed the whole thing. I thought she really did go through all that, and then she
Yeah,
gets.
I didn't think she dreamed it at all.
I don't know. She ends up back in the same closet where she was when she did the pixie dust.
If she had been hit on the head by a basketball or something, I think then you would have the option of saying, oh, it's like a Wizard of Oz thing. She got hit on the head and
Right.
she dreamed the whole thing. But the fact that there's pixie dust that came from nowhere, that gives it that pseudo magical bullshit quality that Big had in spades and did right, that this movie doesn't do correctly.
I think they just were just shortcutting out of it. They're like, who cares why?
The last thing I'll just say is that I appreciate, though, Annie, how you and the kids would be watching, just like Frank said. I could see how it's a remote drop for you. Not for me, but I definitely see it. Sure.
Joel, not dropping the remote?
No. This is actually the second or third time I've seen this movie, quite honestly.
Right. And does Natasha love it?
Natasha, do you love the movie?
It's fine.
It's
I love the music.
it's fine. She loves the music. And honestly, this is what the movie has going for it. It has a very charming cast. It's not just Mark Ruffalo and Jennifer Garner, but even Judy Greer is perfectly cast. And everybody involved is kind of doing the best they can with material that, quite honestly, has been done better, obviously, because Big is the better version of this kind of story. And I will differentiate between a movie like Big and this, and movies like Freaky Friday and 18 Again, and vice versa, where it's a body switching thing, which is its own genre. but even, you know, all those movies have an internal logic that works for them. This just doesn't. The only thing this movie has going for it is the cast and the soundtrack. The script is pedestrian at best. Even the direction is pedestrian at best. It's just kind of there. And to touch
I
on
think
something
your comments are pedestrian at
Well,
best.
they are.
Whoa.
I have nothing much to say about the film.
Smackdown.
It's enjoyable fluff. Why have I seen it 3 times? I saw it once and I was like, all right, that's enjoyable. I don't need to see it again. And then that happened 2 other times because one other time because I forgot about it, and a third time because I had to do it for this. And I
Right.
forgot about it as well. It's a very forgettable film to me. There's nothing in there that I can understand Danielle forgetting how the movie ends. But I will say this, I think there's a better film in the concept trying to come out somehow, and it doesn't quite get there. There was some interesting stuff on the Blu-ray. There's an alternate version of both the opening and the ending of the film with different child actors playing the parts. They're not as
You
good.
on the Blu-ray?
I do have the Blu-ray.
Joel has a video store in his house.
I didn't show it to you when you were here. It's kind of crazy. There are movies. This is not a movie I hate. It's entertaining and enjoyable, just forgettable. But it's interesting because those 2 kids were replaced because they weren't very good as actors. But they also changed a little bit of the concept of how things ended. There's this bit with a bouncy castle outside the house that her parents bring in for her 13th birthday that she's embarrassed about. But Matt is like, woohoo, you know, bouncing up and down on the whole thing. And, she winds up escorting everybody in as they pull up with the excuse that it was for her cousin who has the same birthday and she's only 8, and let's go to the basement and do what we're doing. And then when they come back at the end, she's excited to get on the bouncy house with Matt, and they're both bouncing up and down. And, they do like 2 bounces as kids. And then all of a sudden you see Jennifer Garner and Mark Ruffalo in wedding clothes bouncing on the bouncy house. And that's how that version ended. But the only interesting thing about it, which annoys me about the finished film is, Matt is like, well, I wrote this song for your birthday, and we never get to hear it. You get to hear it in the other version of the ending.
Oh,
Was it a song we know?
Yeah, it's actually, he changed the words to Jay Giles' Centerfold and made it Jenna is 13 years old instead. So it's kinda
cute.
Yeah, it was cute.
Wasn't this the film that someone else other than Jennifer Garner was originally cast in? Or no?
I don't think anybody was specifically cast. There were other people that they were looking for.
Yeah,
or
considering,
looking
yeah.
at, But
No,
I
in
don't know.
the trivia, someone, maybe the director, saw her accept an
Yeah.
award for Alias and said how
Yeah.
funny she was. He wanted
Oh.
her for the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
I'm
she
thinking of
filmed this
some oth-
between seasons of Alias, right?
Mm.
I read something about some film where a woman was cast, and then like a matter of days before they started filming, someone close to her died, and they I don't know if that was one of the films in no, this must have been something else then. Okay.
And you
Wasn't
say
that
I'm
Godfather 3 with Sofia Coppola?
No, that was, but nobody died. That was Winona Ryder, who was just exhausted. So,
and you say that I'm old.
well, Jeff is older. We know that.
Huh?
All right, Joel.
Thanks.
So Star Wise, you're going with
2.5 stars.
2.5. All right, Annie, that leaves you.
yeah. So for me, it's a 3.5, and a lot of that so much is just watching it with my kids, and they
Right.
So
were
it's got a nostalgia extra star.
yeah, definitely a whole extra star. No, a whole half a star for this nostalgia. But it's they were around 10 and 8, 11 and 9, and we just loved the whole thing. They loved the music. They thought it was great, and it was just something we always did together. And as they aged throughout the years, every time it came on, we would all sit in the living room and watch it. It's and definitely for sure, Big is so much better. I love Big, but my kids weren't born when that came out, and if they had been around when that came out, I'm sure we would have been watching that.
I think also this is a girl movie because the girl is the
I mean-
lead and they were girls,
Yeah.
and so I'm sure it has that too. So I love that. I love that this movie speaks to you and your girls. That's great. That really
I mean,
is.
Yeah, because because there's certainly so many of them that have done this kind of thing, you know, but this just worked at the right time for us, and
Yeah.
that's why I picked it.
That's the best reason for liking
Yeah,
a movie.
absolutely.
Yeah, if it speaks to
Absolutely.
you, or if it touches a
Natasha
place
just
for
mumbled
you.
in the background. This is not a girl movie, according to her.
It's not, it's not.
The
All right,
most-
so this
What, Jeff?
proves,
I was gonna ask, the most stars you can give maximum is 4, is that
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah.
So that means Annie's saying that if you take this film and take every other great film of all time, there's only a 0.5 increment that you could get from this film to the best possible rating you could give any movie in history.
yes, that is
Nostalgia
correct, Jeff, and
Nostalgia's a big
I
thing.
think that's absolutely right, because it speaks to her at that level. And it should, that's what movies should do. But but I want to point out that last week when we did the Dick flick, the 2 girls rated the movie the lowest. And this week on the Chick flick, the 2 girls rated this the highest. I'm just pointing that out.
But I also
I'd like to
our
point something
films-
out.
Makes sense to me.
what is that, Natasha? No, okay, Natasha says it's bullshit, and what I was about to say is, you'll find that there are chick flicks that the guys are going to rate higher than this movie because of the quality of the film. That's all.
I'm just saying, the statistics speak for themselves.
Yes.
All right. So I didn't even write down what next week's movie was.
Mildred Pierce.
What is it?
Mommy.
Mommy
Mildred
Dearest?
Pierce.
Oh, yeah,
Mildred
Mildred
Pierce.
Pierce. I don't
Might
know
as
why
well
I'm
be
thinking
Mommy
Mommy
Dearest.
Dearest, same thing.
All right, so this is
Crawford.
one of my choices. We're back to me again.
And Mark, you're gonna watch Mildred Pierce from Carol Burnett.
Yes. Yes, I
Okay.
am.
Yeah.
So this week we'll be watching Mildred Pierce, the Joan Crawford movie from 1945, maybe. And I picked it because I'm
See
not,
you for
it's
next
not,
week.
no, it's not a spoiler at all. I
Oh.
picked it because it's the next movie in my queue for the Franken list.
Laziness.
Right. Then I don't have to watch. Then I don't have to watch 2 movies.
Two
It's
movies.
one.
I saw the HBO remake of it. Did you see that?
Yes.
I
Yes.
really enjoyed that. That was
Yeah, it
very
was
good.
very good. It
Oh,
was
yeah?
very good. All right, so that's it for us this week. Thank you for joining us, and we'll MC you next week.
And also with you.
All right.